Hey, what's up, everybody? In this video tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at how to create the Automata box as a top-down modeled assembly. So yesterday, you were creating all the parts individually, given all the working drawings that go along with this. And the working drawings that you received looked like this. All right, you're able to see, that the Automata box was created basically of four different parts that you had to create in Fusion. I'm saying four, and I know you're looking at this as with five different pieces. We're saying four because the side was a duplicate. All right. But anyway, the working drawings are going to provide to you all the dimensions that you're going to need. We can also see that the material that the actual parts are made from are MDF, or what we call medium density fiberboard. So just have that working drawing with you so you can kind of follow along with us. So back over into Fusion, what we're going to do is go ahead and start up a new design. And I'm just going to simply call this, okay, my top down automata assembly. Here we go. All right, so we got that done. All right, and now we are ready to get things started. So just right off the bat here, let's go ahead and create a new sketch. I'm going to come out here and just pick on the bottom work plane because we're going to start at the bottom and sort of work our way up. All right, so I'm going to start out with a rectangle, starting this from the origin. And taking a look at our drawings, we can see that our bottom piece is going to have dimensions that are 5 by 4. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and create that sketch, finish up with that sketch, and now we can go ahead and do an extrude of this. Now we're going to pull this up. We're going to bring this to 0.25 because the quarter of an inch, that is the thickness for our MDF. But before we just hit OK, this is where things are going to start getting a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to switch this from new body to a new component. Okay, you have to do that. And then we're going to say OK. All right, so we can see that that bottom is out there. So if I just simply grab a hold of this, we can see we can move it. So obviously we need to ground it. So let's come over here to our new component. We can see its name is just simply component one. We're gonna right click on it. We'll come up here, go to ground. Okay, and now we can see that that has been grounded. So while we're here, we can do a couple things. We can either right click on this and say we can do a rename, or we can just simply do a slow double click. And now we can give this a name. So I'm gonna call this my automata box bottom. Okay, so I've just given it that name. So now we know what that component is just by its name in that browser. And obviously now we need to begin adding material to it. So I said this is an MDF. So we're going to come right here to our bottom part. Let's right click on it. Let's come up here now and go to physical material. And once we get into physical material, we're going to come down here. We're going to be looking for our wood folder, and let's go ahead and find our MDF, and let's just drag and drop that on. So our MDF is there. Okay, that's the actual material of it, but it doesn't look like it. All right, and that just drives me crazy. So actually, let's go out there and actually apply an appearance to this to make it look like MDF. In order to do that same exact way, we're going to find our part over here in the browser. Let's right click on it, and let's come up here to appearance. And now you can go ahead and search all over the place for this. It's kind of difficult to find. So what I always just tell everybody to do is just come here to your library, do a search, and just type in MDF. And you will see that MDF board is one of those appearances we have within our Fusion 360 appearance library. So let's just go ahead and drag and drop that on top. Let's go ahead and close out on it. Okay. And there we go. We got the base of this. We got it started. Let's just go ahead and do a save while we're here. Okay, so we have our bottom done. Now we can begin working on our sides. Okay, so our sides are going to be sandwiched between our top and our bottom. So let's go ahead and let's just create a sketch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick on this top face right here. And now let's go ahead and create a rectangle. Starting from here, I'm going to take it down to this line, making sure that I see that's actually hitting on that line. Okay, we can see that this is almost fully constrained. There's one more dimension that's missing. So I'm going to come out here and just say I want a dimension from here to here. I want that to be a thickness of 0.25. That's the thickness of our MDF. Our rectangle is there. The sketch is ready to go. Let's go ahead and finish the sketch and let's do an extrude. So now I'm going to pick on this profile. I'm going to pull this up. Now, the only thing is that we have to worry about, obviously, we need to get our height, which is going to be 4 inches, but our operation right now is saying it's going to be a join. So it's going to join this extrusion to our last piece, which is our bottom. We don't want that to happen. We want these to be individual pieces because when we go to create the part, I'm sorry, the box, we're going to be gluing up all of our parts together. So let's switch our operation to new component. We can say it goes all gray. Let's go ahead and say OK. And now we can see component two is here. So let's go ahead and do that slow double click. And let's just say that this is our automata box side. Okay, so we know what it is. Okay. Now the issue that we have is since this is a component, we can pick and pull. We can see that that drags right off of it. So I'm gonna hit undo, bring that back. Instead of pulling this off and applying a joint to this, something a little bit easier that we can do is come up here underneath a symbol and we can find as built joint. So let's go ahead and pick on as built joint. We can see our joint type is going to be a rigid, but check this out. If we just pick this part and this part, we're basically saying, hey, wherever that's currently at, okay, let's just go ahead and put that rigid connection between those two and let's go ahead and say okay. So now when I grab a hold of this, we can see it's not coming off of that. All right. So obviously we can tell that this is not made of MDF. So let's right click on the side and let's come up here and go into physical material. Okay. MDF is in this design. So we can go ahead and just drag that from this box up here where that's currently being used in this design. Let's go ahead and close. And the last thing we're going to do is right click. We're going to come out here and go into appearance. Okay, we can see that MDF is also an opportunity there. So let's go ahead and drag that onto our side. So our side is done. All right. So instead of creating a whole new side, what we can do is we can just simply right click and say copy. We can just right click out here in the white space and now we can say paste. Okay, we're going to see that triad come up. Okay, we can go ahead and just pull this over. We could put that exactly where it needs to be. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it off and say okay. All right, I don't want to mess with the distances and measurements. Instead, I can come up here and use a joint. All right, the motion that we're looking for is obviously a rigid. So coming back in here to position, okay, make sure to use my filter by picking on control. I'll be finding that joint origin right there. I'm gonna get that to match up with this joint origin right here. And we can see that that goes right onto it. We try to pick and pull it off of it. Obviously nothing is happening. All right. All right, so our second side is in there. Okay. And once again, that was just a duplicate of the first one. All right, so now we're ready to create our top. So let's go ahead and create a sketch. Let's go here right on top. Now let's use our rectangle. Let's find this corner right here and let's take it to this corner right here. Let's go ahead and finish the sketch. Let's look at this in the isometric view. And now let's go ahead and do an extrude and make sure you're picking all pieces of that to make the profile. Once I pull that up, let's go ahead and put in our thickness, which is 0.25. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused. All right. When this happens, okay, we're going to see this sort of diving board sort of thing happening over here. Why is that happening? Because the profile, the extrusion of the profile is still acting like a join. All right. So we are adding that to this part over here. So therefore, it's adding it to this part over here. That's why you're getting that diving board sort of effect. Let's switch that from join down to new component. And now let's go ahead and say OK. So obviously this is able to pull off. So just like last time, let's come up here to a symbol. Let's go into as built joint and let's pick on this part and this part. Let's put that rigid connection between them and say, okay, now we go to pick and pull this off. Obviously it's not moving. Our component still has no name. So let's go ahead and do a slow double click and let's type in Automata box top. All right, so we got a name for that. Now let's go ahead and let's do a right click, go into physical material. Let's find our MDF. Let's drag that onto that part. So we're all good to go there. And finally, let's right click on this, come up to appearance. Let's find that MDF board appearance. Let's drag and drop that right on top of it. Okay. So looking good so far. Nothing is pulling off of this. Everything has that rigid connection. Okay. It's looking like an MDF box. So obviously the only thing that we're missing is going to be the back portion of this. Okay. So making sure I come here to my home view, making sure I know which side is the front. That's my front. I'm not going to be spinning this over using my orbit. And now I can go ahead and create a sketch right here on this back face. Okay, now I can use rectangle. I can come up here to this corner, take it down to this corner, create the profile, finish the sketch, look at this in an isometric view. And now we can go ahead and do an extrude of this. I'm going to be pushing it in. Just make sure you're looking to make sure this is negative, positive, whatever. Okay. In this case, for me, it's saying that's negative. So I'm going to say this is a negative 0.25. I want to put it into the right direction. This is not going to be a join. This is going to be a new component. And now I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. All right. So obviously we're probably, foreshadowing this. This is probably going to be moving and it does. Okay. So just like the last ones, let's go ahead, come up to a symbol. And let's come down and find our as-built joint. Let's just go ahead and pick on the back, pick on a side piece. That'll work. Let's say okay. Okay, we can see that there is that rigid connection there with the as-built joint. Obviously, this is still missing a name, so here we go. Let's type in. This is our automata box back. Okay, and we can hit okay. All right, so that is the top-down approach to creating the automata MDF box. Okay, all those parts are there. Now the cool thing is once I've been kind of saving this, I'm gonna go ahead and save it right now. Okay, if I go back into the data panel, I open this up, you're going to see, okay, that the box bottom, the side, the top, the back, those individual parts are not here because they're all nested within this one design. That is kind of the advantage of top down. All right. Everything is just going to be found within this one design. All right. They are not linked. You can even see here, there is no chain link. Why? Because it's all embedded right here. Okay. So what's cool is if you ever want to go and do any sort of editing, you can always come back. You can hit the radio button. We're talking now directly, in this case, to the bottom part. You can make any changes, make any additions, whatever. Okay. And once you are, done making any of those changes, obviously you need to come to the top level, hit the radio button next to the assembly. Okay. Everything is no longer going to be transparent except for the one part. So now everything is visible. We know that we are in that assembly mode. So there you go. That is the top down approach to creating the Automata MDF box.